share my screen. Got it. Thank you. And I'll share this. Okay, let's get started. Hiring and training an assistant. This is a big topic, you guys, and I think it's a really critical one, really important one. Simone and I would never be where we're at today if it wasn't for an assistant. And I'll share with you a little bit about how we got started in real estate back in 2010. We got started with very little to no money. And of course, as everybody does when they get started in any kind of business like this, you figure out how to do everything and you become the one-stop shop who does everything and everything. We did that, but we realized very quickly that we're not administrators. We don't know how to administer paperwork. We're not great with paperwork. And we knew that it was important that we needed to get our paperwork in on time and that we needed to have that support and help. So within 6 months of us becoming licensed agents, real estate agents, we knew that we wanted to grow and scale. And so we hired a real estate assistant. And when we hired a real estate assistant, what we did is we just walked around the office at the time and asked who knows of a real estate assistant, word of mouth. And we managed to find someone who was actually a licensed realtor who wanted to do some administration work. And she was actually more comfortable doing administration. And so we hired Martina. She was awesome. She showed us the ropes. Like, she taught us what the paperwork was that we needed to do and took care of us so that we could focus on our growth and our building, which is what we did. And, you know, we ended up with, I think, 38 transactions our first year, and then over to 56, and then upwards of 80. And so we just kind of grew and grew thanks to our admin assistant. To this day, we still message and are good friends with Martina and her husband and her kids. So having that relationship with a good, strong administrator can not only propel your business and take you to that next level, but you can also make some really great friends and contacts that could be lifelong, if you will, right? I love this picture of Jackie Chan because this is what I feel like when I'm in need of an assistant. And usually people get to this breaking point, right? So they're like, when should I hire an assistant? And usually it's not until you look like this that you really understand that it is time to get an assistant, time to bring somebody on. So the questions that often are asked is, when's the right time to hire an assistant? When should you add maybe a buyer's agent or build a real estate team? And we're going to answer all those and more in Agent Upgrade Plus here this week and next. The first thing to understand is that there's so many different situations. There's many different agents, there's many different situations. But today, what we're going to talk a little bit about is the timing on hiring, maybe start to get into expanding your team. But eventually we're going to talk about the templates that we use, the examples we use, some of the time-saving measures that are going to save you tremendous amounts of time and money. So let's get into it. It all starts with delegating. And, you know, we've talked about delegating in the past as giving away tasks, letting other people's do things, right? And it's like, the question often comes up, can someone do what you're doing? And so many agents that I talk to, they're like, well, I'm the only one who can do it. I'm the best person to do this. I can do this, right? You know, I think it's really important when you get into real estate is to understand that not only can other people do what you do, sometimes other people can do it better than you. So you got to get over yourself. You got to get over your self-importance and how great you are at doing things. Because the subsequent question to this, which is, can they do it as well as you do? Most often people are like, I could hire somebody, but they're never going to be as good as I am. They're never going to take care of things the way that I do things. I have a certain way that I like to do things, and someone else is not going to be the same as me. Well, I'll pose this question to you as a follow-up. Could they actually do it better than you? All right. So instead of thinking, I'm the only one who can do this, I do it, and I'm the only one who can figure this out, could someone else actually be better at all of the things that you do than you are? And if so, or if you can get over yourself and you can get to that stage in your life where you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should hire other people. Maybe I should just be a manager of a bunch of people who do everything that I do, and they can do it way better than I can do it, right? I know that I have certain strengths in my business, and I know that other people have their own strengths. So if I can actually encourage the finding of people who have better strengths than I do, maybe I could run my organization even better than I do. When I see realtors on Facebook putting up sold stickers on their sign, and I know it's part of this, if it's part of your social media strategy and everything else, that's great. Okay, I get that. I just think to myself, what a waste of time. During that time, I could have been looking for more buyers and sellers, because for me, it was all about performance, all about getting more sales, more sales, more sales. And if I was out hanging up signs or running errands or putting lock boxes on houses, I wasn't looking for more deals. And so I always said, you know, if I delegated more, maybe I could actually have more time to work on my business. We talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago about treating your business like a business. And we said, you know, most people work 9 to 5. When you start in real estate, when you start as a real estate agent, you are the CEO, you're the sales manager, you're the marketing department, you're the CFO, the financial officer, right? You're the one who deals with the receipts and the bookkeeping and everything else. You're the driver, you're the personal assistant. You do every single thing in a business as a sole proprietor, as one person, okay? And that's okay, because every company starts this way. Even Apple and Microsoft and Google, they all started in garages, right? With very little, and it was like 1 or 2 people, and they cleaned and they did everything. That's okay. But eventually, as your business expands, you're going to need to hire people, right? So really your role is the CEO, but you're the CEO plus, okay? The CEO plus means that you run the business and you work the business. So you do everything. So ask yourself, what are you best at? What are you really, really good at in your business? What is the thing that you say, I am really skilled at this? This is what I'm really, really good at. And I'll tell you, if your skill is not prospecting or lead generation, that should become your goal, is that you want to become a master at prospecting and lead generation, bringing in the leads. Now, whether that's online or everything, we talked about all the different ways that you can generate leads, but that should be the one thing that you become very, very, very good at, is prospecting and lead generation. And imagine if that was the only thing that you had to do, is prospect, lead gen, go on appointments, etc. It'd be a pretty simple life. So I want you to imagine for a minute, what would a perfect business look like? So imagine you've got a staff of the absolute best skilled talent in their field. You've got the best administrators, the best team that you're working with. You've got a room, like an office, a room full of rock stars that operate with, there's no personal drama, there's no issues that are coming to the workplace, and they're all giving 110%, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And together with this team, this beautiful thing, this organism that you've created, that you're selling 500 homes a year, you're grossing $7 million plus of revenue, right? I want you to imagine what your business could look like. Not what does it look like right now. You're chaotic, you're behind the ball, you're trying to figure things out, and it's scary and it's daunting, right? Michelle Alton, you're asking here. Yes, is this the time management scheduling class? No, this is the hiring and training and assistant session. And I'll tongue in cheek, I'm going to say the scheduling and time management was 2 weeks ago and you missed it. So you probably need it more than most. But the good news is it's in the resources and recordings, so you don't have to miss it in the future. Now, when it comes to this business, right? And I also said here, like, who would do what in the business? What would your responsibilities be? Like, what would you be responsible for in the business? And what would other people be responsible for? And what I want you to kind of have this vision of is that rather than you being that one person that does everything, you're running around like crazy all day, every day, doing everything, showing houses, running around, dealing with the paperwork and the administration, and calling your clients, looking for price reductions. Gosh, just trying to manage everything, getting your database, working on the marketing stuff. You're just trying to do everything. What exactly would you be responsible for? And what would this team around you be responsible for? And I'll tell you that most people, when they envision this, they think too small. So you're probably thinking way too small right now. You're probably thinking, if it was just me and there was this other person that was just kind of helping with some things, that would be good enough. I don't want you to think good enough. I want you to be thinking organization. Like, let's think down the road, right? Now we're going to scale it back and say, how can you hire your first assistant? But this is like, I want you to think about what your business and what your organization could look like. And here's an example of what an organization chart or an org chart might look like. You've got a CEO, team leader, and they oversee the team. They oversee everything. You've got some agents. Those are the orange. There's a listing agent. You've got a buyer's agent, maybe another buyer's agent. This is a larger team, right? And the listing agent might have an inside sales associate, an ISA. They handle the leads, handle things as they come in, and they feed only good, qualified people to the listing agent or to the buyer's agents. And then you've got maybe an admin or a team of admin in green. And those admin will handle your listings, your marketing and your communications with your clients, all the closing issues and the closings that come up. And then you may have an assistant to all the assistant who does all like the running and the menial tasks, the things that don't require a lot of skill and coordination, but they just have to run around and do lawn signs and things like that. This might be a larger organization, and you could scale this as big as you want it to. Okay. So again, right now you're doing all of these roles. But I want you to be thinking bigger than just you and an assistant. Okay. So when to hire an assistant, the short answer is it really depends. Okay. It depends on a few things. It depends on your production volume. It depends on the level of service that you wish to provide your clients. And it depends on the number of non-income producing tasks that you want to do on a daily basis. So what do I mean by that? First of all, are you doing 5 deals or are you doing 50 deals? It depends on whether or not you're going to hire an assistant or 2 or none. And a lot of you may be looking at this going, well, I'm hoping to do 10 deals this year, and I'm not sure, I probably don't need an assistant right now. That depends, right? Are you targeting to do 10, 12, 15 deals? Maybe you do need an assistant. Maybe you just want to, I don't want to have to deal with paperwork at all. I want somebody else to handle that so that I can increase my level of quality of service with the clients that I do have right now. I want to be able to service my clients really well, and me doing administration is taking away from my ability to service my clients. Maybe you want to hire an administrator right away. Okay. Maybe you already have an admin and you're thinking, I really want to up my level of service. I want to hire another admin. Okay. So it really depends. Or you may be a person who is either lazy or likes to delegate a lot, and you just say, I just don't want to deal with it. So I'm willing to hire an administrator just so I don't have to deal with the paperwork involved in doing real estate transactions. Okay. So that level of where you're at and when to hire an assistant is really going to depend for everybody. What most people do is something I call panic hiring. So panic hiring happens when you look like Jackie Chan at the beginning there. And when you leave hiring an assistant until you're completely overwhelmed and exhausted, you're burning the candle at both ends, you're exhausted, and you just want somebody that you can dump all your problems to, right? The tasks, the challenges, the things, and you just want to dump everything on somebody and just say, here, take this and help me. And that's fair, because that's what a lot of people do. It's like, Of course, we'd like to plan these things out in advance and everything, but a lot of times you just come to that panic mode and you're just like, bam. And that's fair. That's what a lot of people do, okay? It is extremely difficult, though, to train someone when you're in that state, because you end up getting frustrated because you're trying to just dump things on people without training and say, here, take away my problems. And they're going back to you and saying, show me what to do. Tell me what to do. What do you want done? And I'll do it. And you're like, you know what? Have you ever heard this? I'll just do it myself. Just don't worry about it. Just give it back to me. I'll do it myself. And then what happens? You get into the vicious cycle of trying to delegate, not having enough training, not having enough direction. And you get that comment back. What exactly do you want me to do? How do you do this? And then you're just like, you know what, I'll just do it myself. And then of course, what comes up is, if I'm just going to be doing it myself, I don't need an administrator. I'll just go through it, you know? And that's not a very fun place to be, you guys. That is a tough place to be, and it's not very fun at all. Right? Yes, Helen, very overwhelmed. I get that. So here's a couple of general rules of thumb, if you want, okay? If you're on track for the year to do a deal a month, that's 12 a year, I would suggest hiring a per deal VA. Now, what's a VA? It's a virtual assistant. We'll talk a little bit about that, but just someone who can administer your paperwork and take care of some of the paperwork every single deal. The great thing is they're going to cost you a fixed per deal. It might be $100, $200, 300, 500, whatever it is, but you'll only have to use them when you actually have a deal. Now, if the deal collapses, you may still have to pay that VA, but you know, it'll be out of your pocket, but at least you'll have somebody dealing with the conveyancing and administration of your deals. If you're in the stage where you're at about 24 to 30 deals a year, or you're on track to do that, you're saying, you know what, it's mid-year and I'm at 12 already, I'm probably going to double that. I'm going to be in the 24 to 30 deals a year, depending on your market, etc. This is where I would hire a full-time personal administrator. If you are growing past that, every 30 transactions, you add another admin. So if you're going to do 60 deals a year, 50, 60, somewhere in there, I would hire a second administrator. If you're already doing 50, 60 deals and you don't have an admin, just think about how much more you could do if you had proper support around you. Just think about how much better you could grow. There's no way that we would have grown from 38 deals to 56 to whatever it was, 75, 80, and then all the way up to 120 deals a year if we didn't have the support around us, okay? So I really want you to think about this as an investment. If you're gonna spend 50 grand a year on an administrator, it should earn you double that, at least 100 grand in return. So every administrator that you hire should return you double that in revenue generated. Think about that. So virtual assistant, we talk about a VA, virtual assistant. There's some benefits of hiring a virtual assistant. Of course, the cost is going to be lower. They're generally going to be in, India, Philippines, somewhere else, somewhere in another time zone, etc. But the cost is going to be much lower. I mean, I see people hiring virtual assistants for around $3, $4, $5, $6, $9 an hour, somewhere in there. Or, a monthly rate as well. It's generally a lot less than it is to try and hire somebody locally, okay? It's a lot easier that you just go online. There's thousands and thousands of VAs out there, and you can hire somebody. They may also already be trained in some of the software that you use right now. So if you use like a Matrix or some kind of, MLS system, they may be already trained in that MLS system. So it's kind of nice. You can plug and play. A lot of times you can get them as a per deal cost again, or maybe hourly, but they're just working on certain files and they're just working little bits. So the cost is going to be a lot more economical for people when they're getting started. One of the big challenges, of course, is you've got time zones to deal with, and is somebody up at the same time as you are, or you're in a panic trying to get a deal done and they're not available, and you've got something going on, you need some help, some support. You can't just necessarily call on them any time of day. They're going to have their hours, which might not correspond to yours. Now, what can they do for you? Well, here's a list of some things that a VA could do for you. They can load some listings for you. They can help respond to some of your emails. They can be, monitoring your emails. Lead management. So maybe you've got a lead funnel that comes in and you can have somebody handling those leads, maybe getting them to that qualified appointment for you. Your social media posts, maybe arranging photography for one of your listings or measurements, etc. And also then once you do a transaction, conveying all the documents to your broker. So these are some of the things that a virtual assistant may be able to do for you that if somebody was doing these things alone, would that not help you propel? Would that not help you focus on the income producing activities we talked about last week, right? Let's talk about a physical assistant. So you can obviously there's a part-time or full-time. Part-time physical assistant, and by physical assistant, I mean like somebody who's in your market, somebody who's local to you that is working with you in your business, okay? So my experience has been, it's a little bit more challenging to find somebody part-time, because if they're part-time, what else are they doing? And why are they looking for part-time? Where full-time employees are looking for a career, a path, a journey, okay? Now, we talked about a full-time assistant being when you're in 24 to 30 deals a year or upwards of that, you're now looking at a full-time assistant. And of course, the cost is going to be higher doing that. And not only because they're full-time and you're paying them all the time, or part-time and you're paying them all the time, but also higher because they're local, right? So the pay rate and the minimum wages locally are going to be a lot higher than that. Abraham, I think you're letting people in, right? Thank you. One of the great advantages, though, of having an assistant that is local to you, okay, a local physical assistant, is that they're accessible. So you have access to them real time. It's like you can pick up the phone, call them, or if they're in the same office as you, you can just, have a conversation. There's more dialogue that happens. The communication's a lot easier, right? They're dedicated and committed to you. So they work for you as an employee. And there's a huge advantage to that. Now you have this kind of team relationship, this team dynamic that is automatically happening with the physical assistant. Maybe you even have a licensed assistant. Now, a licensed assistant is very common in the United States, where it's cheap and easy to get your license and maintain it. In Canada, I know it's very expensive and difficult to get your license, but if you can get a licensed assistant, there's some advantages that they can do as well, such as maybe helping with some of your buyers as well. But we'll talk about that as well. What can a physical or local assistant do for you? Well, there's just tons and tons that they can do for you. As a general rule, if you're serious about taking your business to the next level, I would absolutely recommend having a staff person who is local to you, okay? Abraham, close your ears, because Abraham's a virtual assistant. But, we added Abraham as well as a physical. So we have a physical local assistant, and then we augment that with a virtual assistant as well, okay? But when we had our real estate business, and for the real estate business that we were doing, which was all very physical and hands-on, having a physical full-time staff member is unbeatable. It's really, really, really great. What about hiring more than one assistant? Like, again, you're doing, say, 50 plus deals. Maybe you can start to delegate even more tasks. So if you've got a lot of deals, you got a lot of tasks going on, and having just one person handle all those tasks, they can get overwhelmed, right? So having two people, you can start to break down who does what, right? Maybe one person more specialized in the marketing and that kind of side. One person's a little bit more administrative paperwork person, right? So you can have different personality types in there. Great point here is vacation coverage. When you are doing 50 deals a year, it's busy, it's nuts. Like, there's a lot going on. And when your assistant says, well, I need 2 weeks off to go to Hawaii, you're like, what am I going to do for 2 weeks? It's really, really hard. So having cross training and vacation coverage, one of the things when we get into the training side, we always cross trained every assistant, so that if one was doing something and they were away, I would have the other one be able to pick up the slack and get in there and handle that, so I wasn't picking up the slack and doing it myself. Another great thing is that there's a dynamic. When you've got two assistants, then they talk to each other, they work together, they have their own little collaboration, if you will, between the two of them. And this is very, very valuable. And it's something that I always found, people are social animals. And so when they have somebody that they can communicate with and talk to during the day or during the work hours, they tend to complement each other in working together, but also in skills. Like I said, there's all these different personality types, and we're going to talk about the personality types when you're hiring somebody and what kind of person to look for. But the complementary skills is important. Like I said, you might have somebody who's more marketing, left brain, creative, and you might have somebody who's more paperwork, just like they get paperwork done and they're really skilled at that, but they're not the greatest with marketing. So they may complement each other's skills, because trying to find one person who can do it all and do it very, very well is usually next to impossible. And lastly is, let's be straight, you're going to lose employees. So you can hire people, and then people's lives and situations are going to change, or you may have to let somebody go. And the cost of turnover, I learned, was one of the biggest expenses in a top producing real estate agent's business. One of the biggest expenses in your business will be staff turnover. And if you understand that, which it took us a couple of times to figure out, that it could cost us $20,000, $30,000 easily in lost income when we lose a staff member. All of a sudden, we are very, very adamant on keeping good people with us as long as possible. And so once you find somebody great, you try and keep them a long time. If you have two assistants though, and one leaves, you've got somebody who can pick up the slack until you can fill that void. So there's some real advantages. If you're in the hire producer and you want to hire two assistants, that's why you do it. We said earlier about how when you're a solo real estate agent, right? We aren't set up like a company, like a corporate. We're set up like a sole proprietor. And when I'm thinking here, we got to think like a company. Okay. What do companies have? Companies have a whole company structure. They have policy manuals. They have a large office environment. I mean, think of any bank, think of any kind of typical office space. They got a lunch room. They got, computers and desks and windows and parking and all kinds of stuff. What do we have? We have, like, I'm sitting in my home office, and I may have a Regis office, or maybe you've got a company office or something that you work in. When we're hiring staff, when we're hiring an assistant, think about what that assistant is doing. That person, that potential employee, is looking for a job. You're looking for an employee, they're looking for a job, an employer. They're looking at banks, they're looking at financial institutions, they're looking at any kind of admin jobs that are out there. They're not necessarily looking to be a real estate administrator, but they're kind of like, this might be interesting, working with a real estate agent. But you're competing now with people who have a real office environment, who have a kitchen, a lunchroom. They have all kinds of things around them that make the employees' lives comfortable. So I want you to be thinking about, how can you compete with that? Is this person going to be coming in and working in your home? Is there a separate entrance? Are they dealing with your kids and your husband and your wife or whatever, all your life around you? Or are they going to work from their home? And if they're working from their home, are you guys meeting in a physical location from time to time? Or what's that working dynamic environment going to look like? Okay. This is all really important to be thinking about as you kind of determine this. Next, when you're hiring somebody, is going to be finding out what's important to them. Okay. Asking someone about what are their goals, their dreams, their aspirations. And so many times when we'll get into the actual questions that you ask people during an interview, but so many times I've talked to people and they're like, well, I'm looking for a summer job because I'm going to be going off to school in the fall. I'm like, well, that's not the person I want to hire. I want somebody who's going to be a lifer, somebody who's going to be with me forever and be my real estate partner in my journey through success. And I'm going to be a mega agent with a big company. And I want you to be with me that entire time. I don't want a summer student, right? But what's important to them? And what you'll learn here, this is really, really critical, okay? Most of the people that we've ever hired, the things that are important to them are often way different that are important to us. So what's important to us is that, you know, we think about the finances and we think about the corporate, like the company and the advancement and all this stuff. Most people are looking for security, comfort, flexibility, stability. And these are the dynamic words that I use because this is what most people, like most assistant level employees, somebody who's looking for an admin job, they want, just tell me that I've got a solid place that I can work at every day, whether it's at home or at your office or your home or wherever. Tell me that I've got a location that's comfortable for me, that I'm not working in a dingy little hole in the wall, like corner somewhere and it's good and it's dark. And they want like a, you know, pleasant working environment. It doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal, but they want a pleasant working environment. They want to know that they've got a job that they can count on for their income for at least the next 6 to 12 months, if not maybe possibly longer. So they don't want to have like a temporary thing, or maybe if I get a job, maybe if I get a deal, I might give you a little bit of money or something, or I can give you a base rate. We're going to talk about the pay structures next, of course. Maybe depending on the person, they may want flexibility. So you get a lot of people now who, with COVID and everything else, they've got their kids, they're maybe working from home, and they want that flexibility that I can do work in the morning, but then between the hours of this and this, I got to get my kids off to school. And so I'd like this time off during the day, and then I'd like to work for a bit, and then I'd like to pick up my kids after school and get them kind of off to sports, and then I could put a few more hours in the evening. So find out what's important to them, because this is going to help you when you're hiring a person. I've learned so much about hiring and training and firing people. We've had so many assistants. We've had some great people. We've had some people that just haven't worked out, okay? One of the biggest things that I learned is great salespeople make very poor administrators. So the best administrators are not motivated by commissions, bonuses, and incentives. They're motivated by a predetermined salary, regular reviews, pay increases, maybe a Christmas bonus, and that's it. So I've seen way too many people in this industry who hire an administrator and pay them base rate plus a percentage of every deal, or for every closing, there's going to be a bonus, or there's some kind of bonus structure, bonus this. It just doesn't work. I mean, I've tried it every which way. And if you have an administrator who is motivated by bonuses and performance and all of that, they're probably not going to be the best administrator. Okay, I'm generalizing a little bit, but I mean, this is a general rule, but trust me on this one. I've tried this numerous times. Yeah, we'll kind of move on from that, because this is the pay structure. What you want to give them is a salary or an hourly rate, and we'll talk about which one you want to do later. Okay, but you want to do a salary or an hourly rate and just have them on a consistent income month over month over month, so that they can rely on it. And the more that they can rely on you, the more they're going to stick with you. Next thing is thinking about, what are you going to provide? So if you're providing, are you providing an office environment for them, or are they working from home? What are they expected to have if they're working from home? Are they providing their own computer, or are you providing a computer? What about a cell phone? What about an allowance for a cell phone or anything like that? Or what are you providing for them as far as their infrastructure and what they're going to need? Mileage for a vehicle. Do they have a vehicle? Are they able to drive around and deliver things like that? You know, technology is a big thing. So are you providing an email address for them, a separate email, or are they just monitoring your email? If they're going to send out a email to a client or a vendor, is it coming from your email or from their email? And is it coming from their Gmail, or are you providing a branded email for them, like admin@pablogalvez.com? If they're using a cell phone, are they expected to answer calls after hours or not? Are they expected to be checking that phone, or are they kind of putting it away? Are they expected to have their email on that cell phone? So all these kind of things you got to think about and write down when you're hiring an assistant, because otherwise you're going to end up in the same boat that everybody does when they hire their first assistant. They just randomly hire somebody, try and figure things out as it goes. That person that they hire goes, you know what, there's not enough structure here. There's not enough stability here. You don't really know what's going on. And so we've decided that we're going to part ways. You're going to lose staff, and losing staff, it really hurts. Okay. What should you pay your admin assistant? Well, first of all, depends if it's a VA or if it's a local. If it's a VA, you're going to be giving the market rates, which, like I said, is anywhere between like $4 an hour and $10 an hour, depending on, you know, the kind of, you know, the experience and where you're going to be finding them. And we'll talk about where to find them. But most importantly, don't be cheap. You've heard you get what you pay for in life. So what I would say as a general rule, I would budget about 25 to 30% above whatever the minimum wage is in your area. Okay. 25 to 30% above whatever the minimum wage is in your area. And you'll notice that administration is an entry-level position for most companies, but entry-level people generally aren't working for minimum wage. So a good VA, or a good assistant, is not going to work at minimum wage. You're going to want to pay more. Okay. You're also going to want to pay more with experience. Think of it this way. If you have to spend 3 or 4 weeks training someone new to the industry on how to do everything, this is going to cost you an extra $2,500 plus your time, which is way more expensive than that. We talked about your hourly rate, right? So if you find someone experience with the software, the systems, everything that you do, you can easily pay them an extra $2 or $3 an hour compared to someone else, and you'll make up that difference in the first 6 months in additional income. Okay. Hourly versus salary. So do you pay somebody hourly or salary? Now, from my experience, the best form to pay an admin assistant is going to be a fixed salary paid bi-weekly on the 15th or the 31st of the month. I do not incorporate any performance bonuses, because performance bonuses are our motivation. You and I are the realtors. We are the ones who are motivated by commissions. So performance bonuses are for us. If I perform more, I make more. If you as the administrator allow me to perform more, I'm going to make more money. And being a generous employer, I'm going to give you a raise. And that's the best relationship that you can have, not bonuses based on your performance. They shouldn't have to rely on your performance for their income. Okay. I wrote here, performance of an admin assistant is an expectation, not a bonus. So you should be performing as an admin assistant. You should be performing all the time. This is an expectation of mine. Okay. Now, why do I do salary versus hourly? A couple of reasons. Hourly has a little more uncertainty as far as how many hours that person's working. So, you know, they have to log their hours. They have to kind of be accountable for what time they started, what time they finished every day. What I like about salary, you know exactly what the monthly rate is going to be. They know exactly what the monthly rate is going to be. It doesn't change month over month. It allows them to plan out their cell bill, plan out their rent, their mortgage, whatever else. It allows them to make plans into the future. Okay. Hourly is just a little bit harder to comprehend. It's like, well, I'll give you $15 an hour. I'll give you $18 an hour, $19 an hour. it's like, well, what am I going to make? Like, so I just say, look, you're going to get 52,000 a year. And then we break that down into what that means on the monthly schedule and how much you get paid in the 15th and the 31st, and it just doesn't change. The other thing I like is that I enjoy flexibility. As a real estate agent, my day does not start necessarily at 8 a.m. and ends at 4 p.m., right? Things happen throughout the evening, throughout the day. So what we've always done is given our admin assistants flexibility. So your hours are generally 9 to 5 or whatever it is, right? Now, if you want to start earlier and end earlier one day, that's great. If there's nothing going on during the day and you want to clock out for the day, that's fine too. But the odd time, I may have something in the evening that I need a little bit of assistance with. And as long as we have this flexibility and I know that I can rely on you from time to time, and I'm not going to abuse that, and you're not going to abuse my relationship with you, et cetera, then we have a great salary position that will give you the compensation that you're looking for. And I've got somebody with flexibility, so I know I've got somebody who's got my back when I really need it. Okay. Last thing that I wrote here is something my coach taught me years ago: hire slowly, fire quickly. If you're in that panic mode and you just hire somebody quickly, it can be very difficult for that to work out. But so hiring slowly is like, I know this is painfully slow. We've been 45 minutes of doing this so far, and it's like, how much longer is this going to be? And can we get to the nuts and bolts? Well, it takes time. It takes time to hire somebody properly. And if you invest the 2 or 3 hours that I'm going to give you on learning everything I've learned about hiring people, trust me, you'll make up that 2 or 3 hours tenfold, even in the first few weeks of training a new assistant. Okay. I could just show you the ads and say, here, write something like this, put it out there, bring them on and show them what to do, and then go. But no, there's a lot more to it. Okay. Hiring slowly is really important. Fire quickly means, if it's not working out, it's not working out. If you get that sense in your gut that this relationship is not working, or this is just not working, you're making too many mistakes, I'm not feeling comfortable with this, you have to be of that mindset of let's restart. Okay. I have been through this scenario many times, like dozens of times. And there's been times where it's really, really tough. Simone and I, if you know us, so Simone and I operate very differently. I hate firing people. I hate it. It's the worst. Like, I love people and I care about people, and I just feel so bad about it. Simone is like, boom, gone, right? Like it'll happen like this. If she's not feeling it, done. And I need to adapt a lot of times, because if I don't, I'm gonna get burned. So it's important when you see that things aren't going the way that you would like them to go, to move on. When you do find those special people, it's magical. It's beautiful. It makes your life easy. It makes your business grow, and you'll know when it happens, because you'll feel great about it every day. It's not dissimilar to relationships. If you get into a relationship and you're not feeling it after a week, and you're like, oh, this person's saying some things, I'm getting some bad mojo, so the vibes aren't working here, fire quickly. Hire slowly, fire quickly, right? When you do find that one special person, you'll know. And it's like every day is a great day. And that happens in your working relationships as well, okay? Let's get right into the job ad. The job ad is extremely important. This is what's going to set the tone and the expectations, of course, for what you're doing. The more clarity that you can provide in the job ad, the more successful you're going to be at finding that special person, okay? Again, look at the relationships. This is like your Tinder ad. So if you have a bad photo, and I don't know much about Tinder, I've never done this, but if you have a bad photo and a bad description, it's like, hey, I'm horny and looking for people, you're not going to get the kind of person that you want, right? If you have a lot of clarity and a lot of, a great description, et cetera, you're going to find that great assistant who's going to stay with you for a long time. Couple of key things: include the salary range. Say I'm hiring somebody and I'm looking for someone in between this range and this range, because It'll weed out the people who are maybe overqualified. You know, I've got 3 university degrees and I'm looking for 150 grand a year. Yeah, I'm looking for an admin assistant closer to 45 grand a year, you know? So you want to get people that are looking in that same kind of pocket as you are, and you can give a range based on expectations. So if you have experience of like 0 years, my salary range is going to be about this. If you have a ton of admin assistant working with other agents in my market, I'm willing to pay more, right? So you include that salary range. Let every single person around you know that you're looking for an administrator. You might find somebody within your network that is looking. And in your job ad, it's really important to include a job description. So what is that person responsible for? And I've created a couple of job descriptions, okay? So what I've got is an example here. This is actually already available for download on Agent Upgrade Plus in the resources and download section. So you can go in there and check it out. I've got several job descriptions and you can combine them. So I've got a listing agent, a buyer's agent, a listings coordinator, a closings coordinator, a client services coordinator who does marketing and communications, and a team assistant. If you've got roles that you're just hiring an administrator, I just want one person who does all of these things, great. Just combine the bits of that, copy, paste, create your job ad, okay? And so this job description is going to highlight for the potential employee what their role is going to be in this company. What am I going to be responsible for in this company? Okay. Now, the job description, as we've talked about in the past, is important to have for your staff, but it's equally important for you to have a job description for yourself. So we've created job descriptions for ourselves. Okay. So I've shown you this before, but this is a listing agent. So let's just say that you're a real estate agent and you work with buyers and sellers. Your job description might be listing and buyers agent. But let's just say you only work with sellers. What's your job? What do you do? And why is it important for you to have a job description? Because we're hiring an administrator, aren't we? Yes. But if the administrator doesn't know what you do, how can they help you do what you do? Is that too many do's? If the admin assistant doesn't understand exactly what your job description is, how can they help ensure that you're only doing the items in your job description? So it's important to create your own job description. Here's a buyer's agent, and all of these are available for download. Okay. So you can go through these, look at them, understand, write your job description, and that'll be, of course, your exercise, is you create your job description so that they know what your job description is and what you're responsible for. And if you understand that your assistant's #1 job is to keep you on your schedule and to allow you to do just your job. That's their #1 job, is not to take away the admin, not to, do the tasks and everything else. Their #1 job is to keep you on your schedule and allow you to just do what's in your job description. Wouldn't that be great if somebody was helping keep you on your schedule all day? We talked about scheduling and time management before, right? So I want you to kind of look at creating your job description. You can use the templates that we provided, copy it, change it, tweak it, whatever. Create your job description and create the job description for your admin assistant so that they will know exactly, because that's going to go into your job ad. Okay, and we said the job ad was really important and what you're going to include into that job ad. First of all, when you create the ad, make it stand out. So have bold letters. I always created use some emojis or something in there to make it pop. So people are scrolling through all these random job ads all the time. Make yours stand out. At least do it all caps. Administrative assistant, real estate assistant is a good one. There's something sexy about real estate. So if you put real estate assistant, that's a really great catchy title. People will love that, okay? Next thing you want to do is you want to answer the following questions. First question that you want to be able to answer in your post, in your sample, in your ad that you're going to create. How much is that person going to get paid? Remember I talked about a salary expectation, put a range in there. They want to know, how much is this job going to pay me? Number two thing that they want to know, what hours will I work? Is this a full-time or part-time job? Am I going to be working all the time, or is there going to be flexibility expected, or what? Because some people may have a second job and want to get a job that's only 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or 7 to 3 or something like that. So they'll want to know what your expectations are as far as the time required for this job. Next thing they're going to want to know is, what education or experience do I need in order to apply for this job? What education or experience will I need to apply for this job? The next thing they want to know is, what am I going to be doing in this role? This is where the job description is really important, because if you have an ad and you outline, here's a role that's available, it's 9 to 5, but it will require some flexibility. Very minimal experience is needed, but if you have great administration and technical knowledge, you're going to stand out. You will be responsible for the following. Bam, 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 bam. You list all the things that the admin assistant will be doing. Then they'll have clarity around what you're looking for, and you're going to attract someone who is closer suited to what you're looking for. And lastly, what do I need to do to apply? This is often very missed. So people will respond back and go, hi, is the job filled? Or here's my resume, and that's it. And then I would also include a deadline. Okay, and a deadline is going to be looking at, we'll be looking at resumes through the week. Please apply by Friday. Interviews will commence Saturday, something like that. So you want to put a deadline on the ad so that people know if it's an old ad or when this is going to be finalized. Now, last point I put here is, you're going to have to filter through the junk. You're going to get a lot of junk that comes through. So one of the tricks that I used when we were putting out ads is I would run like a little test. Okay. So in the number 5 there, where it says, what do I need to do to apply? I always said, please submit the following 4 items to be considered. So this is the wording I use exactly. Please submit the following 4 items to be considered for the position. 1, a resume. 2, a cover letter. 3, references. 4, salary expectations. So this is a test for people. If you're going to be my admin assistant and you can't figure out how to send me a resume, a cover letter, references, and a salary expectation, maybe I don't want you as my admin assistant. You know what I'm saying? It's a test. And I get people, Kijiji doesn't allow me to put attachments. How can I send this to you? I'm like, figure it out. Like, you're the one who's going to be an administrator. If you had to send a document to somebody and you couldn't do it one way, figure it out. This is the test, you guys. Like, I want people who can have the resourcefulness to be able to figure it out. So I've created, and you can download right now, a sample job ad. And it's a way for you to get started. If you want to hire someone, okay? And it's got all the wording, it's got all the different, like the job description stuff. You can kind of tweak it. You do whatever you want with this, and you can copy and paste all the wording and use this as your template for hiring somebody. So where do you post this? I've always had success with Kijiji and Craigslist. Indeed is pretty good for job ads. If you're looking for a VA, try Fiverr and Upwork. They tend to work well. Obviously, post it on your social media and your Facebook, etc. Let people know that you're looking for an admin assistant. I've always had success with those for posting for a job ad. A couple of tips before we get moving here. I just said, think about where you want to be, not where you are now. So this is why I wanted you to think bigger at the beginning. And I know you're probably like, I just want to hire an admin. It's just like a simple little thing. Well, it is and it isn't. from my experience, it seems like you just want to hire an admin to take care of some things at the beginning. It's not. It's more than that. It's you are now building a business, an organization with staff. So I want you to think more about where you're going to be. Always hire sooner than you think you're going to need it. You will need it. As you grow, an administrative assistant is going to propel you. It's going to take you further. And if they don't, you're doing something wrong. It's your fault, not theirs. And we're going to show you as we get into next week, we're going to talk about reviewing, responding, interviewing, and hiring someone. So we're going to talk about the next step. And then we're going to talk about training, okay? Because this is an in-depth process and I want to make sure that you get all the knowledge you can go back, right? Lastly, I said create structures for your admin to enter into. So if you try and hire an administrator and say you need to create the structure, it's like hiring somebody and saying, I need you to, get your hammer out and get the drywall and the mud and everything. I need you to create your own office. Once you've created your office, I need you to figure out, like, get a desk, find a computer, and then write your job description. No, you've got to create the framework for somebody to come into. You need to create the environment, the technical, whatever. You got to create all that to come into. What I want you to do for next week, let me just see, there's one note in here. Yeah, so the question here is, do you give them a tryout period of, say, 2 weeks when you hire them? Yes, so there is a 3-month probationary period, and we're going to talk about that when we do the interviewing and the hiring. There's always a 3-month probation period. And during that time it's like the feeling out period, right? This is like the checking out period. It's either going to be a yes or a no for you, or a yes or a no from them. So yes, there's always going to be a trial period during that time. If you get a VA, how do you pay them legally? Usually, again, through a structure, right? So through a Fiverr or Upwork or any of those, that's where you're going to find people who are already trained. We use a great company, which I'll share with you next week. It's called Cyberbacker. And that's where we've had tremendous success finding a virtual assistant, which I'll post a link maybe in the resources and downloads about Cyberbacker and how you can find out more about that. But yeah, Fiverr and Upwork are great too if you want somebody more of a per deal or hourly. Yeah, so Michelle's asking about CPP, EI, etc. We'll get into that when we get into the hiring process, but great question. I'm going to make sure that I add that. And yes, Abraham's writing here, there's Payoneer and TransferWise. There's ways like PayPal, et cetera, that you can also pay people. But usually if you go through a web service, it's really nice because you just put your credit card in and they do all the transferring and everything for you. Yeah, so EI and CPP is definitely something that we will address next week. So we're running out of time. If you have questions between now and then, I want you to be thinking of those. I love these questions because we're going to address all of this. We're going to get into like the nitty gritty of interview questions, how to filter through resumes, the interview process, what it's like, the hiring, the technical side of hiring, what kind of documents are required, confidentiality agreements, all of that kind of stuff we're going to get into next week. Okay. So I've got to run. It's the top of the hour. Thanks so much, you guys. And we'll see you next week. I think it's going to be a really good session. Okay. Thanks to you guys. Ciao.